Hello everybody, I'm Osiris.
Hello everybody, I'm David.
David and I are part of a task force that's working with the Providence School Department and the Providence Police Department to try to close the pipeline that leads from public schools to prison. We've been at it for about, we formed the task force about 10 months ago, about 11 months ago. And what happened to cause us to form the task force is like in April of last year, I have a daughter that's attends Central High School. Her first day at Central High School, she had a problem with another little girl, young lady. The young lady went to the school resource officer at 9 o'clock in the morning, and she said, I have a problem with this girl that just transferred to the school. There's going to be a fight. Can you do something about it? Well, the school resource officer didn't tell the principal. She didn't call me as a parent. She didn't call the other little girl's parent. She didn't tell the principal, assistant principal, counselor, anybody. She just kept that information to herself. At about 1:45, 1:45 that same day, the little girl accosted my daughter in the bathroom and a fight ensued. Then the police officer arrested both students, put them in handcuffs, had them taken away in the police car, processed as if they were adults, and put into the criminal justice system. So, another part of the story is this. Prior to her having my daughter and the other little girl arrested, they called me to the school. I went up to the school and I'm there and I'm advocating on behalf of my daughter. In fact, I'm the PTO president of my daughter's school. And so I'm there and I'm advocating on behalf of my daughter and the police, and I'm asking her, you don't have to arrest my daughter, can we deal with this? This is just a fight. You know, normally when we all went to school 100 years ago, you know, if the children fought, you got suspended. It was dealt with in house, but now it's a crime. And they criminalize you for fighting in school. So once you are arrested by the police and you're put in the criminal justice system, there's no due process. You are now a part of the criminal justice system. And this is not just happening to high school students, it's happening to elementary, middle school, and high school students. So once I got upset about it and I decided to do something about it as a parent, I called David and a few of my other friends, Ray Watson, a few other people in the community that I knew that was connected and could make some moves. So I got them all together. We met with the superintendent in May of last year for the first time. And she was surprised to hear about what had happened, but she was also surprised to find out that so many arrests were happening in her schools. What we found out is that there was over 400 arrests in our schools, in the Providence school system, in 1 year. 400 students arrested and railroaded into the criminal justice system. So I went down to the courthouse. I talked to judges, I talked to prosecutors, I talked to public defenders, and they're all overwhelmed. They're saying that they have no idea why it's that way, why so many children are now being sent from school into the criminal justice system. So David, would you like to jump in and say something? Because we did a whole lot of investigating. David knows a lot of the numbers.
And so Osiris called me and he told me what had happened with his daughter. And just as a little bit of background, because this is how community works and this is how community activism works. A lot of you will remember a few years ago the mayor closed 5 of our schools, and that's when Osiris and I first met, because we were both affected by the school closings, and we both got very active in trying to stop the closing of the schools, and we got to know each other, and ever since then, when issues have come up, we've worked together to try to deal with some of those issues. So he called me, and like he said, he called Ray Watson, who many of you may know from the Mount Hope Community Center over here. He's the executive director of that. And we went in and we started having meetings, and of course we asked a lot of questions like how many arrests, why are there arrests, who's in charge, where does the word come, what's the principal's role in this, what's the superintendent's role in this, and we were very disturbed because nobody had any answers. They couldn't tell us how many, they couldn't tell us, and so we started doing all the research and looking into things, and we find out that it's a very bad state of affairs. One, it took them a long time before they could give us any numbers. We actually just got numbers the other day that said there were 8,000 suspensions last year in the Providence School District, and it was not, many of them were multiple suspensions. There were some 3,000 children who were suspended that many times, and that just, and everything we've been able to research suggests that every detention, suspension, expulsion, arrest is an indicator that of a likelihood for dropout, for not graduating, for getting pulled into the school to prison pipeline. And all of the recent studies, there's been a lot of very recent research that says this zero tolerance policy that they had in place for a while has had a very detrimental effect, and punitive measures tend to lead to very poor results. So what we're and we give the superintendent some credit because she formed a task force, and we're now working to put together a new code of conduct that goes towards non-punitive ways of dealing with disciplinary problems. And it's a long, hard process, and it can be very frustrating, but cross your fingers, we'll get some good results.
But it's important that we, as parents, as citizens, as community members, that we be very vigilant about what's going on in the schools, because it's not just a school-to-prison pipeline. We have a prison industrial complex that is alive. It's a monster. It's just devouring our children. I was at the intake center in January, and the average age of the young man that's incarcerated now in the intake center is about 22 years of age. These are students from the Providence school system, but this has happened nationally. You know, our children are under attack. Public schools are under attack. Charter schools are becoming a new thing, but when you investigate this thing, what you'll find is that a lot of the people that are funding these charter schools also invest in the prison industrial complex. So there's something going on. When you look at the numbers, the percentage of children that are being railroaded into this pipeline, and then you look at the children that are at the prison, there's that correlation. You can't deny it, it's there. You know, and it's predominantly black and brown children. And it's not just our young men anymore. Our young ladies are now coming under attack. You know, and I'm not trying to make this into a racial discussion, but you know, there's very little value put on the lives of black children. You know, to the point where they don't even value their own lives anymore. That's why they're self-destructing the way they are. That's why in Chicago there was 600 killings last year, young black men killing young black men, because they have been programmed now to not even see their own self-worth. You know, there's this debate going on now whether or not we should have an African-American curriculum in school. 2014, why should that even be a discussion? That should be a given. So our children especially, again, it's not a race thing, because I know we all are here because we care about the children. But our children are endangered. Our children are under attack, black and brown. And so that's why I'm working so hard with the superintendent, the police department, even the commissioner, right there, he was just like appalled. He couldn't believe the numbers that he was seeing. So nobody really knows how this is happening. The school department doesn't know how it's happening. The police department doesn't know how it's happening. Nobody seems to know how it's happening, but it's happening all over the country. You know, young black and brown children being railroaded into the prison industrial complex.
And I'll give you one more statistic or another number. When we finally started getting some numbers from the school department, we were not surprised that black students are overrepresented in the arrests and in the suspensions. Black students make up more or less 19% of the population and 30% of the suspensions in the school system. Yeah, no, it's about, but so there's definitely that. And just for fun, I looked it up today. Again, we're not surprised. The Providence School District is 82% white teachers, and so that's another one of the areas that we're working with the superintendent on, trying to adjust that, because I think in this room we all know there shouldn't really be no big difference in the numbers as far as who's getting into trouble in our schools.